Hello. So when you're planning a trip back to your homeland, a few things go through your mind, chief among which is how much has that place changed? I've not been home in over 10 years, nearly 11 years in fact. And in that time, I've kept up to speed, I think, with some of the breaking news alerts that have come out of my country. But I think the things that I'm going to notice most when I go over there that have changed more than anything else are those day-to-day activities, those activities that you previously took for granted and may not be around to this very day. I left England at the height of the recession. It was November 2008. I moved to the US, and of course, instantly, something that I saw having moved here was the closure over the next 2 years of sort of very big businesses such as Blockbuster, Borders, etc., etc. But the same was happening in my country too. It was just a few weeks, I think, after I left England. Woolworths, a staple of my childhood, closed. It went into administration at that time. And that sounds like a small thing, right? We don't necessarily lose sleep over the loss of these corporations or these corporate entities necessarily. But in a sense, we do, because, like I said, that was a background to my childhood. Add to that British Home Store. And, there were others, JJB Sports, Maplin, Pound World. How are we going to cope without that? For my American viewers, Pound World is the equivalent of your Dollar General, in which everything, instead of being a dollar, is a pound, although it's not always true, of course. It's cheap goods. Add to it all of these shops that have started to disappear off the British high street. And so just that aspect alone is likely to paint a rather different picture of England than when I was last there in 2008. And so again, the British high street will look markedly different, I suspect. Again, I won't lose sleep over that, but it will be something that I will likely document at the time. And speaking of retail, the method with which people are paying for things these days appears to have changed in the UK as well. Since I've left, people are using this contactless payment mechanism that allows you to make payments without even touching anything. That sounds crazy. Apparently, it has made its debut here in the United States just this year. Banks have been sort of slow to adopt it here, and other sort of retail outlets have been slow to adopt it in the US. Apparently, it's all the rage in Britain, so I'm going to be very excited to try that out. I hope we can still pay for things using our regular, swipe cards, because even those in this country, due to chip and pin, are going by the wayside. But so much for the consumerism angle of British life. On the other end of the scale, the country has been awash, apparently, with what is known as fly tipping. This is where people just dump all of their trash, as you know, in the United States, their waste, their rubbish, into the street. And this has taken over Britain, or at least that's how it sounds when I read the Daily Mail. I imagine it's not quite as bad as that. I don't think it's going to be on every street corner. Otherwise, I would have heard from people that have travelled over there, I think, by now, just how bad it is. But that said, it looks like a lot of councils in the UK have extended the time between collecting the rubbish. And so people are resorting to just throwing it out in the middle of the countryside. Sometimes I saw an episode of Country File where that happened, and it's a disgrace. So, if we see any of that, I'll be appalled, and I'll film it, and I'll make a really sad, tragic video about it with a lot of music in minor key. Now that is quite literally trash, but the country is in fact growing up, not mentally, but in terms of height. Go to London, since we last lived in the capital, they've obviously built the Shard, but they've built a lot of other buildings. The same is true in various other cities around England. The same is even partially true in my hometown of Grimsby. I understand that they've done up the bus station area, so that's good. Can't wait to see that. And as I've said over previous videos, we're going to spend some time in London as well, just a couple of days. I mean, it won't be too long, but I am excited to see that new skyline and how that plays out. It looks very picturesque on Instagram among the people that I follow that live there. So yeah, I mean, this is going to be an interesting time from an architectural standpoint. I keep talking about how I'm taking Tara to see all the Roman architecture, that architecture that has been in York or thereabouts for thousands of years, but deeply and equally interested in the architecture that is new to the country. So from that point of view, should be good. But I spoke a moment ago show about the Grimsby bus station, but there's possibly more about Grimsby that is going to catch me by surprise. Who knows? For instance, the little woods nearby my old house where I used to play when I was a kid, has that all overgrown by now? I think it actually had when I was living there. There were frogs and toads and all sorts. And, the school field nearby, I used to play football there all the time. Are those goalposts still there? Is everything still intact from my childhood, or has it just sort of moved on, bulldozed things over? We don't have a tendency to do that. It's less a common thing to do that in the United Kingdom than it is in America, I think. Things are built to last, I think, on the whole. But goalposts can be an exception to that, especially when you have hooligans around and boxes of matches. And my family, of course, predominantly lives in Grimsby. Still haven't seen them in 11 years. And because of that, they've aged 11 years, obviously. That's maths. So have I. And so, we've all changed, and we've only sort of interacted via Skype, more or less how I interact with you, although with you it's one way. With my parents, it's sort of one way because I do all of the talking. But, that's the only manner in which we've seen each other in that time. They don't know that I've grown a third leg yet. They haven't seen that. And I'm joking, that hasn't happened. And I haven't seen sort of what they are like from a sort of physical standpoint, a mobility standpoint and all of that. No offence, but they are at that age now where 11 years makes a big difference. So I probably shouldn't have said that out loud. But it is going to be interesting. I think, not just my family, but people in general, friends and things like that. Friends have had children. People my age have kids. What are they thinking, having kids in their late 30s? It's a bit early, I think. I'm happy with the cat, but I can't take him with me. So it's going to be awkward around the dinner table, isn't it? Oh, so you've got a kid, you've got a kid, you've got a kid. I've got a cat, and he sometimes interrupts my videos. That's about the best thing I can say about him. And the last time I lived there, I was 26, going on 27, and I was still at that age, where sort of things to do with pop culture, specifically music, were still on my radar. I was still a sieve to new music at that time, and I sort of appreciated the pop music world. That's kind of changed. I got into my 30s, and suddenly it all sounded old hat, like I'd heard it a million times before. But, back in those days, people didn't even know who Lady Gaga was, much less how to pronounce her name. Or Justin Bieber, he was a little fetus back then, and I'm name-checking North American singers because I don't know any British ones. Being away from it, you lose track of all that. The only ones I really know are Adele, who hasn't done a song in 4 years, and Amy Winehouse, who's dead. I jest a little bit on that, but there is a point of truth with it that, of course, being away from your country, you do lose track of what is hip, I suppose, if that even matters. I might be hip in the UK for all I know. I'm not. I've looked at my analytics. I am bombing in the UK, so I need to get more followers from there. But, which TV shows are popular other than Country File? That's just me and Tara. We're sad, lonely people. I'm behind, and I suspect I'll return from the UK to the US still being behind. I don't think I'll be doing much watching of television or consuming of Radio 1 or any of that. Maybe I will, but I won't have too much time. I may remain in the dark over that. Perhaps I will now for the rest of my life. Maybe I'm now set in my ways from a musical standpoint, from a music standpoint, and won't ever address that situation and just continue listening to the Beatles like it's the 60s. And, I think things have changed there in England and just the United Kingdom in general from a political standpoint. Not only in 2014 did we have the Scottish referendum to determine whether or not Scotland remains a part of the United Kingdom or becomes an independent nation, but we've since had an even bigger referendum, of course, on whether or not Britain or the UK stays in the EU, and we voted to leave, and we're still leaving. We haven't worked that out yet. It's going to be interesting to see just how sort of widespread the conversation around Brexit really is. Is that all people talk about now? I somehow doubt it. I think even though it is kind of creating this level of uncertainty in the country, I think people are still likely to be talking mostly about their everyday needs or all of that kind of thing. I'm sure it will be a side piece at the dinner table. It may be even part of the centerpiece on occasion, but I don't think it will fully dominate conversation, or at least I hope it won't. I don't want to spend my whole time in England talking about politics, just as I don't like to spend my time here in the US constantly talking about politics. There's a time and a place, don't get me wrong, but I don't think my visit to Britain is it. I'm really only saying this so that the friends that I'm staying with and the people that I see don't bring it up. All right, it's a warning to you. Keep it light. Food. I can't believe I haven't even talked about food. Rumor was that the 99 flake, right, for my American viewers or anybody that's not familiar with the 99 flake, that's a soft serve ice cream in a cone in which you put the Cadbury bar, a flake in it, and you eat the flake as well as lick the ice cream. I mean, it's a standard ice cream. The big thing here is the flake stuck in it. I don't know why it's that spectacular, but it is. I mean, I love it. And I'm still holding an invisible one, as you can see, and eating it. I'd heard that they're just not as popular anymore. If that's true, I am the saddest man ever. I mean, I'm already sad. Clearly, I'm eating an invisible ice cream. That's good. Oh, crap. I've got it all over the bloody skirting board. That's just in a nutshell some of the sort of pondering I've been doing about some of the things that may or may not have changed since I was last there. But 2008 it's a long time ago now. It's really weird. I spoke a minute ago about Adele. Can you remember her song Someone Like You? That came out 8 years ago. Time goes way too fast. It's been going very fast. I can't believe I've been here over a decade, but that's how time goes. Now, are any of you watching this and thinking, I've done something similar in life. I've moved away from my home and then gone back there after so many years. What was the feeling like for you when you did that? Did you feel a sense of not belonging in any way, or did you feel instantly at home because it was formerly your home? I'd be very interested to get a take on this, because I've read about, expatriates that move to a country like the United States or any country in the world, and then after so many years move back and they have a very hard time adjusting. 50% of expatriates have that very problem. Now, of course, that's not going to be the problem for me. This is more of a vacation than me moving back. But nonetheless, I think there are going to be certain elements that speak to that idea of finding it difficult to adjust in some way to the new British way of life here in the 2010s, almost 2020s. We're nearly in the 20s again. So anyway, that's it. Thank you for tuning in. We have more videos coming up in the coming weeks, indeed the coming days, about our trip to the United Kingdom, including on Tuesday, we're going to do a live stream in which we take your questions about our trip to England. Cannot wait. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Thank you for watching this episode of Lost in the Pond. Don't forget to hit my stupid little face to subscribe, and please share this video with the world. Hit me up on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook, and if you would like to support this channel, please do so at patreon.com/lostinthepond.